Welcome back to New York Wedding Jam, the podcast for modern couples. I am your host, Jason Alisea, and I'm joined by my co-host, Martine Darniak.
Hey Jason, welcome to season 2.
We are in season 2.
I'm very excited that we made it this far because when we started, if you'll recall, it was kind of like, well, we'll see how this goes and whether or not we want to keep it going. But I've been having fun chatting with you and sending out some information that I'm hoping other people are also finding useful. How about yourself?
Well, honestly, I just love the sound of my voice. Just to quote you from episode 18 or 19. No, I'm just kidding. I was just telling you. I was just telling you how I love the sound of this microphone. It's I was hearing myself and I was like, I sound pretty good.
Yeah.
But no, I've been having fun. I was having fun doing this on our last season, and we did need to take a little break. There were a lot of things going on. Some weddings come up and it's very busy.
Yeah.
And I think the same for you in your personal life and things going on. So.
Yeah, so that's the kind of time of the year that we're at right now, and so a break did need to happen real quick. But honestly, this is episode 21, which I'm feeling pretty good about that we've managed to get this far.
No, I think we did good with 20 episodes, and it's not ironic. I guess it's interesting or coincidental that we kind of needed to stop around episode 20, and it was a nice
Right.
round, even number, and we took a couple of weeks, and now we're back.
Yeah, and now we're back. So welcome back, everybody. Today we wanted to just chat a little bit about some venues in the area. That's usually every couple's first stop is to find their wedding venue. And there are some really amazing venues in the Hudson Valley that I think people should know more about. Maybe, it's sort of well-kept secrets, if you will, that I think really should shine even more than they do.
Yeah, I've been doing this for about 5 years, and I've been to quite a few venues in the Hudson Valley, so I definitely have my few favorites. And I think that we were talking about, I think the original name of this episode was going to be non-traditional wedding venues. And I think the last time we talked about, we were planning this, we said, well, what's your definition of non-traditional? And you gave yours, and then I gave mine, and they were both different.
Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of times, like, just depending on how you're looking at something, like, non-traditional could mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. I was looking at it more as venues that don't do what basically all the other venues do, which is, like, allow outside catering, which is standard in this area, that most venues come with the catering, and, like, the food and beverage packages are included as part of their cost, as opposed to, like, space rentals. But then, like, when you were talking about non-traditional as in not a religious location for your ceremony. So venues that allow ceremonies. So those are definitely two different definitions of what non-traditional could be. And then we kind of flipped it, right? Like, let's just talk about venues that we like that
Right.
are kind of awesome in the area. So
Right.
I say let's go with it and see where we come to with that. So Jason, give me one of your favorite venues in the area, and what do you like about it?
Okay. So, and this is in no particular order, and I chose, I guess you'll hear why I chose these three, but I'll mention one, and that is City Winery. So City Winery is in City Winery, Hudson Valley. There is one in New York City. I do like that one too, but we're talking about the Hudson Valley, and I do like the one in Montgomery, New York. It is the venue that on my list, it accommodates the most amount of people. I don't know for sure, so don't quote me if you're listening to this podcast and you want to go check it out. But I think it's 350, maybe 300, something like that. It's a lot of people. The space is huge. And that's not why I like it. I'm just mentioning that because my other two, one is large, one is medium, one is small. But City Winery is the biggest one. It's also beautiful. And it has this very industrial look, which is not too common, at least for me, in the Hudson Valley. There's a lot of barns. There's a lot of farms. And this is I don't even know what this originally was, but they've refurbished it, and it looks very industrial. The lighting is great. The space for cocktail is really amazing. The building itself has a lot of character. It overlooks some water. I don't know the body of water that it's on. It's not the Hudson River. It's some other body of water, a small creek or river. That's where the ceremony takes place. The cocktail hour is usually in this little cove area, and then the reception is inside in the main space. There are places to get ready right on the premises. A friend of mine is getting married there actually in November, a personal friend of mine. And I was telling him about the service. The few times that I've been there 3 times. And every time I've been there as a vendor, I've never been there as a guest, but as a vendor, the people were excellent. And so, and as far as a couple goes, and if you're visiting there to do your tasting, or you're visiting the space and working with their staff to kind of tour the space, it's such a pleasure to not only have a beautiful space, but have people who feel like you're being, they're going to take care of you, and they care about your space, your wedding. They care about the space and how you'd like to design it, what you'd like to bring in and stuff like that. So I can't say enough good things about the space and the people that work in it.
Awesome. I love that. And I actually think that is one of the biggest things that clients may not know about, right? Like if you've never had the experience of being there as a guest, this might be your first experience with the space or the people. One of my favorite venues in the area, completely different vibe than City Winery, is Glen Island Harbor Club, which is in New Rochelle, New York. And the staff is second to none. I'm going to admit it. Like they are always so pleasant to work with from day one, and the service is impeccable, and they have people around that are just there to help out and whatever you need and however you can do it, and they are there to make the day better for their clients. Plus the food is really good, and I've seen them do like different cuisines. Like it's not necessarily, and we'll talk about food in another segment.
You getting hungry?
But I do think that they have one of the best menus too that I have experienced. It's a classic ballroom. They do have multiple events there potentially on any given day. So some people might want to consider that, but the spaces are so separated, like you're never running into one person versus the other. And like all of the entrances are different, etc. But it is and it's right on the water. I believe this is the Sound, if I remember correctly. But
yes, it is. It is on the Sound. I've been there. Mm-hmm.
And the just like the windows in the place, it is beautiful, impeccable staffing. The food is excellent. The service is great. They do have a getting ready room there, although again, I think it's really more like final touches. So like you probably do have to do like hair and makeup elsewhere if you're gonna use the space, but it's a pretty nice room for just kind of like the chill space, if you will, or like final touches, or if you wanted to take photos in that room, it's a pretty nice room to do that.
Does that space, that getting ready space, have windows? I don't remember.
It does not.
Okay.
It does not.
Okay.
There are no windows in the getting ready space, but it's prettily decorated. It's got a really big bathroom, and again, like the space is pretty nice. Like, I think one thing, if we're talking about spaces, like a lot of the venues only have one suite as opposed to two for getting ready purposes. Like, so I don't know, the grooms kind of hang out or show up later, or again, in this case, like it's a room that they're both going to use later. Like both members of the couple can use after the fact, for sure. Like during cocktail hour or when you arrive, if you've done your ceremony someplace else, you can have ceremonies on site. So I've done both at that venue where you have the ceremony on site or off site, depending on what you're trying to do. And then the cocktail hour space is pretty nice. It has a piano in there. It's like a grand piano. It's definitely, the ballroom itself does have tons of windows and natural lighting, which I know Jason, you've got some feedback on in terms of like trying to get the lights right in there. But from a what I'm looking at perspective, it's really nice because you can see the water from basically anywhere in the ballroom at any time. So it's pretty lovely.
Yeah, I do like that venue, but I think we were talking off air about some of the technical challenges that come with filming the ceremony in that the ceremony space when it's used for indoors, right, instead of having the ceremony outdoors. It does present a challenge, but having been there twice already, I've pretty much figured out how to fix that, but it's still a challenge.
I got you. And I mean, hey, listen, some of that, again, I'm looking at it from a very different perspective.
Right.
And for me, what I'm usually looking for is does the vibe check match what the clients are looking for?
Right.
Are we going to get good service from here? How helpful is the staff? They've got a bridal attendant, their maitre d's and their attendants are just excellent. And every time I've worked there, I'm always impressed by the people. It's not always the same people, but it's always impressive. So
yeah, they obviously take
pride,
the time, and they're proud to train their people to operate very similarly, no matter who's working that day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's your medium sized space?
So my medium size venue that I really like in the Hudson Valley is the Roundhouse in Beacon, New York.
Okay.
Now the Roundhouse, I've been there a couple of times. Once was a beautiful, gorgeous day. The other day was pouring cats and dogs. Gotcha. So I've got to see it in two very different lights, so to speak. You know what I mean? Right. And both work. I know rain. Nobody wants rain. I just recently shot there in March of 2024. Pouring rain. I mean, like cats and dogs, torrential downpour. And there was something really sexy about that place. Obviously, the ceremony had to be indoors, and the way that they were able to kind of hide the tables, it really, from a guest perspective, didn't feel like we were in the actual reception room, but you were in the reception room. It's a hotel. The Beacon, the Roundhouse in Beacon is a hotel, and it's. I don't know how to rank hotels, but it's a very nice hotel. It's very nice, and it's very modern. And the ceremony it's also on the water, but again, not on the Hudson River. And I don't know the body of water that it's on, but it's right near some rocks where there's like waterfalls. It's like a very small waterfall. The water is rushing by, so it's very romantic. And the property has manicured lawns and curated bushes. Like the bushes are in a very, I don't know the name of the shape, but also the place is well organized. So one thing that I noticed is not only was it visually and aesthetically appealing and modern, the staff was very professional. And I think that's kind of a theme that I was going to continue to run through our selections of some of our favorite places. Is the people there take care of the bride and groom, and certainly during this rainy day with this couple recently in March, there really wasn't much that anybody can do, but with umbrellas and making sure that the photographer and I were trying to kind of get some shots as much as we could outside. If the rain tapered down, we were able to kind of go outside just for a little bit and go back inside, but. I would say that the food also at the Roundhouse was excellent. I keep referring back. I don't have maybe the discerning palate that you do, Martine, but I found the food to be very good there. Yeah. And I found the place to be elegant. So certainly in terms of like a medium-sized wedding, I would say I don't know their capacity either. I don't know their official capacity, but I would say that the last wedding I was at, I felt comfortable. I think there were like 200 something guests, maybe 180, 190. It felt comfortable, enough room to dance. It didn't feel too big. It didn't feel too small. And it was very elegant, very modern. So black tie affair, so appropriate for tuxes and ball gowns, that type of feel. But at the same time, this wasn't a ballroom the way you would imagine a ballroom would feel. So
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I think, when I help couples find a venue, one of the first things that I'm doing is checking on sizing, right? Like, does the space fit like what you need it to fit? My next venue on the list is Bear Mountain, so very different feel from Glen Island.
Mm-hmm.
Main theme is that the staff is excellent, and I love working with them, and that the food is good. But the thing about Bear Mountain is they actually have multiple spaces, but the main one, the bigger one, is like 200 people, I think 225 people max capacity. I usually tell people to like not try and hit max on the space, right? Like if you're planning on 225 people, don't pick a place that has a max capacity of 225, because
It'll feel packed.
it'll feel like there are too many people in the room for sure.
Yeah.
Almost always. But as you're sizing things out, and as I've done different floor plans there, for example, what I like about that space is there's actually two, right? Like, so they have two locations that are owned by the same company, like they're within like a mile of each other, and one of them is much smaller, so kind of out of the way of the park. And then the other one is kind of like central to the park location. They actually have three, because then there's the merry-go-round too, but the merry-go-round is much smaller. So I think if you wanted to have an event at the merry-go-round in Bear Mountain, it's like 50 people max or something like that.
Okay.
And then there's the lodge, Overlook Lodge, that's also up there. It's kind of nice though to have the options, and like the Roundhouse, this one has hotels, so like usually most people stay the night of the wedding. If you want to stay before, that depends on the booking and if they like what other events they have, because they reserve the hotel blocks for the people who are having the wedding that day. In terms of like making sure that you have a place to sleep that night, and they comp the hotel room for the bride and groom, for the couple, I should say, on the wedding night. And that's kind of nice. Like, it's kind of nice to know that night you can have this, like, and it's super huge. It's like this massive room that people have access to there, at the main space at Bear Mountain. Plus the view's excellent, especially if it's in the fall. Like, I love fall weddings at Bear Mountain, because all the foliage comes in and the colors are really nice, and it is on a body of water, but typically speaking, it's not the water that you're going to see most of the time for most of their locations. Depending on which view you're looking at, you may see the water, you may not. But for ceremony purposes, like, typically you're looking at the mountains and you've got that backdrop, and it's just beautiful. It's really pretty. Like I said, staff is really nice. This is a much more rustic cabin feel, so not your traditional ballroom on this one. But it is one of the hidden gems, I think, in the Hudson Valley. And I love working there.
Yeah. What community is it again in? What town?
So, I don't remember. It's like on the border of Rockland County and Orange County, New York.
Okay.
So it's right there in Bear Mountain. Like, so if you know where Bear Mountain State Park is, the venues are basically right in the park.
Got it.
So if you're looking for anything, like if you look up Bear Mountain, Nick, you'll definitely be able to find this particular location. I don't know that most people know that there are 3 venues up there, right? Like that like you kind of pass it by, and
Yeah.
I think some people might just assume that it's just the hotel, but they've also got cabins that are not in the hotel proper, and then, like I said, there's like a lodge that you can like basically book out and have everybody stay in the lodge directly and have the
Right.
ceremony and reception right there. There are some advantages to having it in the lodge, which is, again, because it's not right in the middle of the park. Usually if you book it out, there's nobody else around but you, like your party and your people. The one in the park directly gets a lot of looky-loos, if you will, because it is right there, and a lot of times people are trying to come into the building to find a restroom. So there does seem to be a lot more foot traffic, that's coming through the main entrance. But it's really pretty. Staff is nice. People are helpful. They have 3 different sizes, like I said, on all of their venues. So depending if you need the small, medium, or large, they have a few different options for you. and you're getting the same service and everything else. They do have outdoor spaces for their weddings. You can do it indoors if you have to. And like it's just a nice like rustic cabin feeling to the whole thing.
Got it. You know, when I was asking about your like what town it's in, you know, and you were talking a little bit about the area, it got me thinking about my last venue that I liked, the Roundhouse. The town of Beacon is probably one of my favorite towns in the Hudson Valley, and I forgot to mention that the town itself is also an attraction. The town has so many different restaurants and bars and like a glass blowing place and other antiques shops. It's a great place to kind of spend the weekend if you're there and your guests are coming in for the weekend, like most people do. It's a great place to kind of just shop around, bop around, have a drink, have lunch, and do stuff, you know, the days before or after your wedding. So I'm a big fan of Beacon. You know, and it's funny that I'm mentioning this because my next venue selection is also in Beacon. And that is Lamb's Hill venue. Okay, and so Lamb's Hill is, I don't even know if they consider themselves a farm or what they consider themselves, but I'll tell you, the capacity is very small. It's 50 people max. And the 3 weddings that I've worked there, they don't even have 50 people. It's like 30 to 40-ish people.
Nice.
Okay, so it's not. There are live horses, ponies, donkeys that live on the property, and your getting ready space is in the, I don't know, I don't want to call it the wrong name, but you can get ready. There's like
there's a space.
There's a space. Yeah, it's very nice, and it's very rustic. So it feels like you're in. It's above. It's in a barn, sort of. It's above where the horses are, but it doesn't smell like that. The place is very clean. They take good care of the animals and the space for you to get ready. And I think they offer the space. I don't want to speak for them, but I've known couples that have spent the night in that space, which is a little bit, maybe a 60-second walk from where the main space is, the reception space. Okay. Nice. The draw of Lamb's Hill is the view of the Hudson Valley, a view of the Hudson River, I should say. Yeah. It overlooks. It's on a mountain, and you're going to need, unlike the Roundhouse that is actually down in the city of Beacon or the town of Beacon downtown. Lamb's Hill is in Beacon, but it is up nestled in the mountain. It's really spectacular to look at with a drone. Of course, that's my area, but even standing on the property itself and looking at the Hudson River as the sun sets, it is absolutely stunning. Even just go on YouTube, search any video for Lamb's Hill wedding video. It is absolutely gorgeous. The people there, it is privately owned by a couple and primarily operated by one woman who oversees the wedding venue as well as a wedding boutique in the town of Beacon. So a lot of women get their dresses. They select their dresses, have them tailored at the boutique, and they also will get married at the venue. They work with I think a limited number of caterers, and so you have I shouldn't speak on their behalf, but I feel like it's a limited number of caterers that they will work with, and the few that I've worked with have been very good. But again, I think the town of Beacon, along with this location up in the mountain, and if you are seeking like a very, very intimate wedding in the most gorgeous of settings, I would definitely recommend Lamb's Hill.
Very cool. I love that. And I mean, again, I guess most of the time I don't think I do small weddings for the most part. Like 100 people is like small for me.
Right.
for the most part. So like to be honest, most of my weddings, and I guess in part that makes sense, right? Like people are feeling more pressure if there are more people that are going to be involved in the thing, and so
Sure.
they want the planners coming in. So I tend not to do, not that nobody does that, but like again, like for me, like most of my weddings tend to be on the larger size
Right.
side. But one of the venues that I like that I guess is also sort of on the smaller side of things is Whitby Castle. So
Oh yeah.
that one's a castle, and that one's right in Rye, New York. So it's kind of out of the way, but it's very scenic. Got lots of good spots for photos. Plus, it's a castle. Their getting ready room upstairs. This one is not a hotel, but their getting ready room is gorgeous. Just frankly, like it's worth it to just get ready in that space and just have
Yeah.
all the stuff. And they actually have a couple of rooms, actually three. So there's like the two upstairs and then
Yeah.
there's one downstairs. That's less, I guess, lovely downstairs, but
Right.
at least there is an actual room.
Yeah.
For people
They
to
usually
go to.
reserve the for hetero couples the upstairs room for the woman, for the bride, because
Yeah.
it looks like a Victorian dressing room. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's stunning.
It's really, really pretty. And again, if you're going to be doing the whole hoopla of like hair and makeup, getting ready there is quite lovely and will give your photographer, videographer lots of good shots for the getting ready piece. So definitely worth it on getting ready there. And again, like just the castle itself, it's a castle, right? So of course that's going to be fun for photo wise. Like I think I intentionally chose venues that were very different from each other when I made this list of what places that I like. There are many other places too, but I just like the variety of like, well, you might like one kind of place or one kind of thing, or even from a scenic perspective, like, do you want to be in the city or do you want to be in the mountains, right? Do you want to be by the water, or are you okay, not having any water views, right? The thing about the Hudson Valley that's lovely is that there are quite a few venues that have water views, which is nice.
Yeah.
A nice to have. And if it's not water views, we've got other things, but I feel like you can definitely find a scenic spot that makes it worth your while to book there. I love the space. I think Whitby Castle is just cute, right? It's very I wouldn't even say just Victorian, but it's like it's a castle. So like you get that castle vibe and feels, and so if you're kind of, on your Downton Abbey like mode of what you want your wedding to feel like, it's a good place to have it. Plus the staff is again excellent, the food is good, they treat their vendors right, they make sure that we get fed in a timely fashion, which not every other place does, so I always appreciate that about them as well.
Yes, definitely get your princess vibes on in this place, at least from the outside. The one time I was there, it did rain, and so I've seen weddings on the internet where the ceremony takes place right in front of the castle, and that is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, at my last wedding, which was October of last year of 23, it rained. I get a lot of rain. I don't know what happens with
Sometimes like there's some seasons that we've had that have been like so rained out, and like
Yeah.
every wedding or every weekend is just rain, and so yeah, I've had my fair share of rainy. And not every venue is awesome when it does rain. So that's the other thing that I like to tell people is like be prepared to pick a place that you like both inside and outside, in case you don't get the outside look that you were planning for.
Right.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, Jason, I think it's like we could keep going all night probably, but
I
think,
know it was very
6
hard
is
for
a
me
lot.
to pick.
Yeah.
It was hard to pick my top 3, and there's probably another 3 that I love just as much, but I had to keep it to 3. So
yeah. So same. So I had to keep it to 3 as well, but it's always nice and fun to just do that first part, like just kind of getting the vibe that the couple wants for their day and how they want to choose which venues they go look at. So I love doing that part, and then helping people find one that's not just the right vibe, but also the right service level for what they're looking for.
so important.
So important. Well, Jason, thanks so much for chatting with me today, and I guess we'll see you on the next one.
See you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.